Read the PDF for yourself. The ultimate issue here is deadly serious for generations to come, not something innocent, benign like soap suds in a shampoo or other consumer goods. Keep this in mind when studying Exxon's support of climate change deniers. Shall Exxon not exploit a large natural gas deposit because of the risks? If it exploits, what should it do with the carbon dioxide and sulfates? Sulfates create acid rain. There is too much to release into the atmosphere considering the hazards of CO2 on the atmosphere. So, options are risky. 1. Burn it in the atmosphere. A risky environmental and PR issue. 2. Force gases back into undersea rock formations, an expensive proposition. 3. Sparage the gases, which means to diffuse gases over a wide, undersea area, creating long-term issues considering CO2's nature. A link to the PDF for this document is found in the description window below. This video aids in answering the question, what did Exxon know and when did it know? Exxon's science department knew in 1978. Corporate leaders knew in 1983. The below document audio is from an Exxon letter dated 1983. It is not an exact replica, it was dictated. The PDF is available below in the video window. Exxon's cultural attitude toward carbon dioxide pollution and its public relations risks is the point here. Exxon was far ahead of the United States general population and remains so today from the White House to neighborhood streets. There is no evil intent in this document. It simply proves what Exxon knew and when it knew. Eddie Evans, Killer Oceans webmaster. Exxon Corporation document dated October 17, 1983, Science and Technology Department, from A. M. Natkin, Manager Office of Environmental Affairs, to Mr. R. L. Preston, S.O. Easton, to become known as Exxon, Killer Oceans Webmaster Houston, Texas. Dear Dick, following your recent review of the Natuma project with the Management Committee, I promised to send you my thoughts on the additional studies which should be considered to help resolve, or at least put in proper perspective, our concerns about the environmental aspects of the project. The following are some initial thoughts on the subject and hopefully, they may be useful in stimulating our collective thinking on the subject. We will be getting together with other interested New York groups to discuss the subject and other views and ideas will be passed along to you at that time. I think we generally agree that we are seeking a method of disposing of the off-gases in a manner which will minimize the risk of environmental damage. We must also have the data which will be convincing not only to ourselves but also to the international environmental community that the method selected is environmentally sound. Of course, one may never have enough data to completely satisfy the latter, especially where the science itself is controversial, such as with acid rain and the CO2 greenhouse effect. The alternate disposal methods you have studied do have various levels of environmental risk associated with them as well as probabilities of being challenged by the environmental community. We think some additional work is justified in order to better understand the environmental impact and potential risk. The only completely acceptable and defensible method of disposal appears to be re-injection of the off-gases into the formation, as this eliminates the discharge of both CO2 and H2S/SO2 into the atmosphere or ocean. It is expensive and creates an opportunity for recycling within the producing formation. We understand you are going to reassess the cost and the possibilities of re-injecting into nearby formations which would preclude or minimize the recycling problem. The work done so far indicates that the subsea disposal option is technically feasible, removes the H2O aspect but creates a zone around the underwater seepage which may be more toxic to marine life, and may only temporarily remove the CO2. To resolve some of these issues, we think, the incineration and atmospheric release case has been fairly well defined. We feel it will be the most difficult to sell given the rising level of concern in North America and Europe over the acid rain issue and the emergence of the CO2 greenhouse effect as a global environmental issue. We do think you should consider whether the fallout of acid rain in the surrounding ocean is going to create any more or less of an environmental impact on marine life versus the subsea disposal option. In addition, we think you should further evaluate the potential fallout on land masses, recognizing that comparisons with current fallout levels in the northeast United States are probably not valid, given the rising level of concern that environmental damage is being caused at current levels and therefore must be reduced. We recognize that there are many uncertainties over the timing and extent to which pressures will be felt to reduce these types of atmospheric emissions in Southeast Asia. Therefore, it may be desirable to screen the economies of the appropriate cases on both a retrofit basis and atmospheric release base case, as well as viewing them on an initial installation basis. I have also attached a guideline or checklist document which was prepared to assist affiliates in making environmental impact assessments. I thought it might be of interest to you sincerely. Natkin, a bioassay data should be obtained to define the potential toxicity in the affected area due to the reaction products, that is, complete the Phase 2 studies. B. Appropriate study should be initiated to resolve whether and to what extent shellfish would be affected in the area by higher carbon concentrations. C. Studies should be made of the marine biology in the affected area to go along with the above effects studies. That is, to what extent is there marine life in the surrounding area which might be affected. D. Further study should be initiated to define the ultimate fate of the CO2 injected at the ocean floors. These studies should not only consider the solubility of CO2 in the ocean water incurring, temperature, and upwelling effects, but also the extent to which the CO2 would be consumed aquatic plant life or converted to inorganic carbonates. We believe we need to determine as convincingly as possible whether or not the subsea option would provide a permanent solution to all or some portion of the CO2 discharge by retaining it in a benign way within the ocean environment. Perhaps our scientist can suggest some way of helping to ensure that it does. We understand you are also reviewing the economics of installing a sulfur plant to deal with the H2S. Unfortunately, this option does not deal with the CO2 release.